Hello, and welcome to the Small Business Success Summit presented by Entrepreneurs Forever. I am Tamara Abney, Vice President of Community Relations and Outreach, coming to you from the studio of our partner, Community Forge, an organization who also supports local entrepreneurs with their Wellness to Wealth workshops and tailored business services. I will be your MC for this amazing morning, full of programming with special guests, great workshops, and panel discussions. But first, I'd like to start off with the official welcome from our CEO, AJ Drexler.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to see you. I'm AJ Drexler, the CEO of Entrepreneurs Forever, and I want to officially welcome you to our Small Business Success Summit for Western Pennsylvania. For the many small business owners out there, I want to say this. We do this work for just one reason, to help you grow. Because when you grow, both your family and our community are stronger. But growth is hard, and I know this firsthand, having started, grown, and exited 2 different businesses. I know how challenging it is to get up every day and keep the momentum going and keep the business growing. That's why I'm so pleased to be the CEO of this extraordinary organization, which supports entrepreneurs in a pretty unique and impactful way. Over the last nearly 10 years now, we've helped business owners just like you to find your people. We do that by creating peer groups of business owners that empower one another and help each other. That's why the theme of today's summit is Stronger Together. And we've demonstrated that this model works. After just a little bit more than 2 years in the program, our peer group businesses are growing by more than 50%. So I hope that you are inspired by the stories, the workshops, and the panels today, and that you'll want to consider joining one of our peer groups to experience it for yourself. I also have to take a moment to thank Senator Bob Casey for his generous support. Along with the Small Business Administration, they've made it possible so that there's no cost for you to participate in our program. I think there's a QR code there that you can click on anytime to apply. Thank you all again for attending today, and I hope you enjoy the summit.
Thank you, AJ, for those words, and thank you to Senator Bob Casey and your staff who advocated for our SBA funding, which has created opportunities for entrepreneurs right here in Western PA to thrive. I believe most of you know about the Entrepreneurs Forever program, which offers monthly peer group support to small business owners, and we are happy to say our members are here with us today. In fact, that's how we came up with the theme Stronger Together. Our members work together as they face challenges and growth opportunities, which inspire us to bring you a special guest to kick off today's Success Summit. I am pleased to introduce Simon Huntley, who is the founder and CEO of Harvey, the #1 local grocery delivery service in Pennsylvania. Harvey's whole business model is all about working together with local farmers, producers, and makers. Let's roll a short video to learn more about Harvey.
My name is Simon Huntley. I'm the CEO and founder here at Harvey. And what we do is we bring the best products from across the region, from local farms, local producers, and we bring it right to your door. I started this service because I believe there was an unmet need that really wanted fresh local produce, but you wanted it easy and convenient to you. And so now we're doing it. So here's a couple products that we have on a weekly basis. We have about 500 different products. So here's just a couple of them. Pita chips from Pita Land. These are really addictive. Dipped in hummus or baba ganoush that we also sell. We have best ever granola. Seriously, it's really good. And then of course, fresh produce from farms right in our region. So here's a fresh tomato and I have some fresh chard here. The selections change a little bit each week and then we bring the product right to your door. You choose exactly what you want and it's free to sign up. And I really welcome you to try us out and try a whole new way of eating.
Simon, thank you for being with us here today. I will ask you some questions, but we also want to give our audience a chance to ask questions as well. So if you'd like to ask any questions of Simon, please use that chat function and we'll answer them at the end of this interview. So let's get started. So Simon, tell us all about how you came to start this business. How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm here in Western PA. So I grew up in Greene County and I went, but I was more interested in technology and programming as a kid, and I went to Penn State University here, and I started to work on farms in the summertime, and sort of like I started to cook more and learn and I think as an idealistic 20-year-old, I looked around at the world and said, agriculture is just this really interesting way that it affects the way we use our land, the way we use our water, labor, business. It's like agriculture is just, I think, a really interesting way to be in the world. And I thought that combining technology and agriculture would be an interesting way to build a career. And just this idea that why are we, I grew up on a farm here in Pennsylvania, so I know we can grow lots of food in this state. And why are we shipping food from across, all the way across the country when our farms in this region can be building sustainable local food economies here in the state, employing people, creating opportunities. And, the average food travels 1,500 miles from farm to plate, right? And so, like, how do we create a new system that changes that? So really, I spent 20 years trying to figure out the answer to that question.
So did you always know that you actually wanted to turn that passion into a business?
No, I mean, I think as a teenager, maybe I thought I would start a business. I tried different, I've always been interested in that, but I'm not sure I knew that this would be the thing, but I after college, I worked on a farm for a couple years in Colorado, actually, and I saw how I could help. It was really simple at the beginning, right? I built websites for farms, and it was just like, instead of, and this was 2006, so things are very different now. I know it would be, you could probably be building like AI for farms or something at this point, but at that point it was websites, and it was just a really simple thing that I knew these farms were going out and spending thousands of dollars to hire like a web designer to build the website. And I thought, I know a way where I could like build some templates and make this easy and charge them $20 a month instead of, a large consulting fee. So, that was really the beginning of the business. It's just this small thing that I knew I could do, and I knew I could provide value to these farmers that I wanted to work with. And I've just sort of slowly built the business from there.
That's interesting. You basically worked with the farmer, was getting your hands dirty, literally, and then thought about like, how can I add additional value? And then also, how can I turn that into a business?
Yeah. I think like working, that's like a really good point. Like if you're, especially a young person, like working in that industry that you're interested in gives you that picture into what the problems might be that they're trying to solve. And so, and actually while I was working there, I built a website for them, of course, and to like manage their business and things like that. And so that was the original version, and said, I can do this for 10 people, I can do this for 20 people. And eventually, over the years, built that to serve a couple thousand farms across the US and Canada and beyond. So it's just like starting with something small and just trying, just following it from there.
So at Entrepreneurs Forever, we always talk about the power of like peers and networks. Who helped you along the way? Who was your support system?
I've had a lot of different things over the years, and I really believe in that piece of it, because being an entrepreneur, being a business owner can be lonely, right?
Yes.
We were talking before, is that maybe your partner doesn't want to hear about it. Your employees, you need to be talking about things that maybe your employees can't hear about. So it can be really lonely, and I feel like you have to find that release valve for that, and to be able to get that problem solving out. So I understand what you guys are doing, sort of almost like small mastermind groups. I don't know if that's the term that you use, but I've done a couple of those over the years, or had like executive coaches. That's what I'm doing now, is I have an executive coach that I've worked with for the last 3 or 4 years. And I sometimes say is like to I pay him to give me a boss, like I need a boss. I need someone to tell me.
So it's that accountability piece.
Yeah. And just like when you have like big decisions to make, and just to have someone just to like talk it out with, and for them maybe to call you out if you're not thinking about things right, or, especially someone that you trust, So I've tried different things over the years, and I think it's like absolutely vital to the success of my business and any business. For sure.
So let's talk about the produce. How do you actually like pick the farmers that you want to work with? Like, how does that relationship work?
Yeah, so we have a sourcing team. So basically we have 3 professionals who are going out and finding the best food that we can source in Pennsylvania, and then bringing it into our warehouse. So it's a pretty complicated thing to figure out, like exactly, the right exact products that we need, make sure it's the right quality, the right price, make sure we can get it there. There's a lot of pieces, and that sourcing team does it. So I'm not making those decisions on a daily basis. This sourcing team is sort of figuring those things out. So.
And where is actually your warehouse? It's here in Western PA, correct?
Yeah. We're in Lawrenceville.
Oh,
right.
nice,
Yeah.
Nice. So tell me about some of the biggest challenges you faced in business. How did you overcome them?
The biggest challenges. Interesting. Let's see. What are my biggest challenges? Such a broad question.
Just pick one. So, okay, let's narrow it down. What is something that was challenging this year for you, and how did you overcome that?
I think some of the challenges for me this year have been, which I know a lot of business owners have faced, is just like turnover in staff. I think I've faced some changes in that, and especially at the leadership level. And so that's been sort of challenging and forced me to like go back into the business in a deeper way. But I think that's been really, really great for the future of the business. So I just spent a lot of time in my warehouse this year, for example, like figuring out exactly, what are the problems there, and that's a piece of the business that I have been focusing more on, like the marketing, the technology, and the maybe the sourcing side of it, rather than the like, how the trucks get from here to here, and how do we make sure the products get in the boxes right and everything. And so, it was sort of a challenging time in the business to sort of go down that deep in it, but it was really like, I think towards the future of the business, I've learned so much during that period. So usually just try to find what's the good in the situation. And I think we've built a stronger management team over this period, with losing some people moving on. So,
Challenges of being the founder, right? Right. So talk about a business opportunity that has come along, and how did you capitalize on that business opportunity?
Yeah, so one of the big shifts that I've made in the last 7 or 8 years is so I told you about the beginning of the business where I was building websites for farms, and that over time turned into something a little more complicated. It turned into like order management. I would help. There's maybe some folks in the audience have been a member of a CSA program, a community supported agriculture program.
Yes.
And so that's really what the business turned into over time, is like a technology to help them manage that business. So like, take the signups and figure out who should get the box every week, and like that whole, like almost like if anyone uses Shopify, we were almost like a Shopify for these farms. But I started to see a constraint to that model. Like it wasn't, the farms were losing too many customers every year. They couldn't really grow. And so it was like, I kind of felt like my business couldn't grow because like the farms that I was working with couldn't grow. So I really spent but the business was working pretty well at that time. Like I had a small team of 5 or 6 people, and we were, it was like it was a nice business. So I had the chance to sort of spend a year on customer research and just talking to customers and trying to understand like, why aren't these CSA programs working for them? And not really with any idea of like, am I going to solve this problem or am I not? Just like, let's just take the time to spend this year to learn. And then Harvey sort of what came out of that is like, how do you make a more customer friendly, version of this thing? And the number one thing that I had recognized at that time was, if you're in a CSA program, you get like a standard box of just like vegetables maybe coming off the farm or something like that. And if you can't choose, if you don't like broccoli, or you don't like, maybe you get a box full of kale, maybe you don't like that, So Harvey really was about this, like, how do you make a customizable version of a CSA program? And that's sort of like, I've kept following that down. But that was like an opportunity that I saw, that something that was sort of working, but like couldn't really grow. And that's really what Harvey is about.
Nice. So you talked a little bit about employees and hiring. We often hear from our business owners that it's really difficult to find and hire great people. How have you been able to build your team? And maybe give us a perspective of when you started out to even the challenges that you just talked about with now you're looking at like different leadership levels. But do you have any advice for any of our business owners that may be going through that?
Yeah, hiring is really hard. I think, oftentimes we have so little time that we spend with people when we're interviewing them for a position. Maybe you do a phone screening and in person, it's just like, it's so little time. So especially at the leadership level now, I try to spend a lot more time with people before I bring them on board. So, maybe try to find like a couple month project that you can do with them, like, like a smaller, maybe a consulting piece, or like, how do you figure out if the two of you are going to work really well together? And so at the leadership level, that's what I'm looking for. In the rest of the business, I'm really looking for, as leaders in the business, we need to develop the systems within the business where certainly I want everyone to be successful within the business, but it has to be, everything can't be in their heads. Like we need to build like systems that we can bring new people in if people leave, and it's like easy to train people, easy for people to be successful within the organization. And so I'm really looking to like build those systems for the people that, that's what I think my job is like in management and leadership is like, that the business has to be this system that, we can have people come in and people can leave. And that's just like a natural thing that happens in businesses.
Yeah.
And then I think like, and this might be more at the leadership level, is like really knowing yourself as a leader.
Yes.
Like, what are you really good at and what are you not good at? And find those people that you can place around you to do the things that you're not good at. As a company, we've been reading this, was it the six types of working genius? I don't know if you're familiar with this idea. So that might be something people could check out. And it does it's a really neat framework for understanding, where your strengths might be. And I know there's like hundreds of different things like this out there. But one that I recognize in myself is that I'm good at thinking about like the future and the next idea and like what's that like
The vision.
The vision and the innovation of like, how are we going to make this warehouse work, or how are we going to make this technology work? And I really like that part of it, the problem solving part of it. But sometimes like the really down, like we're going to do this every day and we have to execute on this. I get sort of bored of that. And so like finding people that like really love that part of it, like executing the plan day after day. And just being honest with yourself, of what you're good at and what you're not.
No, I think that's key. And also in business, building those repeatable processes so that you can, continue to build the business, and you as a founder can continue to like be the visionary and the leader on that end. Right. All right. So what is your best advice for entrepreneurs who are ready to scale up and build their business?
I think first thing is, like I said before, is talk to customers. Make sure you really understand who your customer is really important. And like everything that we do comes from customers. And so like that's that's sort of the point that I got in my business in, I guess, around 2016, where it was like, it was a nice business, a small business, but I couldn't see how it could like scale to the next level. And as I said, I spent the year on customer research to really understand what that bigger challenge is going to be. But I think also, as I was thinking about like, what can I talk about today?
Yeah.
I think we can't be, as business owners, we can't like, we see so much success modeled, but let's see, how do I say it? Don't try to be anything but who you are as a business or as a business owner. Like we're not all going to have billion-dollar businesses or million-dollar businesses even. And certainly there's a certain financial success that just keeps the lights on and keeps payroll going. But I think like every business doesn't have to be some massive business, right? And so just like learning to love the problem that you're solving, learning to love the customers that you're working with, learning to love the work is like almost what's more important to me at this point, Yeah,
no. Build the business to where you want it to be.
Right.
Not what you think other people want it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I think that's key. So now let's take some questions from our audience. And I see a couple questions here. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Did you recommend that the founder, or do you recommend that the founder/owner always be the face of the company? You did a great job in all the Harvey ads I see online, But what if you're less charismatic / handsome, or don't want to be the face of your own company?
Interesting. I think that can work. I think that for me, the storytelling piece of Harvey has been so important, of like what kind of like local and with Harvey's, like what kind of local and independent food economy were we trying to build? How are we trying to build these connections between consumers and producers? And so for me, that storytelling aspect has been so important, and it's like very natural to me. I love writing. I love telling that story, and I'm very passionate about it, obviously. And in the case of the Harvey with the Facebook ads, sadly they work better than any of the other ads that we do, right? So
did you test that?
Yes, we tested it, over and over. And I keep being like to my ads team, I'm like, you got to find something else that works better. And
they're
so
like, no,
they have found some other ones over time, but like those ads always work really well for us. And so, I try to give the business what it wants. And so I guess, yeah, but that's interesting. But I think it can definitely work. I don't necessarily have any advice for that because, I'm not sure.
It seems like what you're saying is you have to, as a business owner, just trial and error, test what works for you. Sometimes it is being the face of the company,
right,
and telling that personal story or telling the story of the business that works and resonates with your audience. And sometimes it's not, but you would have to kind of like test and see which works best.
Yeah, but I think it's like okay to put yourself, like maybe it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable. Like if you're not comfortable being that face of the business, maybe you feel comfortable in writing versus maybe you could do like an email newsletter, or you could do, I don't know, like Facebook posts or, Instagram or something like that. Or it doesn't always have to be the video. I know the video can be pretty, it's pretty intimidating, but also like business is about taking us out of our comfort zones, and like we're all capable of much more than we think we're capable of, and so I think maybe you can try it.
Yeah, try it. Oh, wow. Lots of questions. Okay. What's the most unexpected challenge you faced growing Harvey, and how did you adapt to overcome it?
Most unexpected challenge. I think it's just like how long these things can take. It's just like you just got to keep going, like day after day, month after month, and year after year to really make something like really happen. And so for me, it's just like the patience. Like I can see where we're going as a business. I can see like what is possible. But like having that patience to just be like, okay, today, this is what we're going to do today, in service of this like longer term vision over time. So I don't know, that's what comes to mind.
Okay, I like it. All right. Do you think there are any challenges or advantages to being in business in Western PA as opposed to other parts of the country?
Yeah, let's see. So I've been in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Western PA. I left for a couple years, but I've been in Pittsburgh for I think 19 years now. So it's a little hard for me to totally say, but what I found with Harvey over these last 7 years is it's been a great place to sort of incubate Harvey, and I love this region, and people are really supportive of small businesses here, especially small farms and small food producers. And so it's been this really great place to incubate Harvey, but I feel like it's a smaller market. We have I feel like a little bit of a hayseed by saying this, of like a farm boy saying this, but as I spent more time we're now delivering to Eastern PA. So as I spend more time in that region, just how many more people there are for us to reach in that region, and how many more food producers, and let alone when you talk about like the rest of the East Coast. And so it's a smaller market. I think we've got to recognize that, and so that means a lot of things. Like maybe there's less, if you're looking for investors, there might be less investors here than in some areas, or less of a talent pipeline for really those like that top tier talent. I think you can find all that stuff here. It just might take longer.
Okay. In the early days of business, how did you decide in the early days of the business, how did he decide what he should do himself versus delegate, and what positions to hire?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think that with Harvey in the business all along, I think that I've done every job that we have at the business. Like I'll go out and I'll deliver boxes, or at this point, or, pack boxes, or, I've done all of it. So I feel like if there's at least the way I've run it is, if I feel really comfortable about what I'm doing, maybe I have like a written down process or an SOP or something like that. If I can get that job to that point, I should probably go and hire someone to do that. And so, or maybe we should stop doing it if it's not working, right? And so I'm always like trying to find that, like, especially at the beginning, maybe like, what's the next bottleneck to my time? Like, what's the thing that's taking most of my time? And then hiring for that. Or you could look for, what are the things that you have, what do they say, like joy? What are the things that you find energy going towards? Like, maybe you should keep doing those things. And the things that you're not finding joy, maybe it's like the accounting. You're like, you're 2 months late on your, running your QuickBooks, or whatever. Like, maybe go hire a bookkeeper. And so that's what I would think of.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. How do you keep pricing current with fluctuations in pricing?
With Harvey, we source 700 different products on a weekly basis. We source from 300 different producers. Their prices are constantly changing. And so that's really sourcing's job. They've actually spent a lot of time on that this year, of figuring out like exactly, maybe we get a discount from a supplier during one period, and then like, how do you change the price at exactly the right time? So they've just really built a spreadsheet, and so I don't think it's more complicated than that, but it can be really challenging, especially if you have like fluctuations in price a lot of times. But we're an online service, so maybe that's a little bit easier for us because we can just change the prices week to week to reflect the underlying costs.
4 more.
Okay.
The customer research was likely such a highly valuable investment for your business. How do you continue to listen to your customer voice and capture and respond to their feedback?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I just take any opportunity to do that. I send a fair amount of emails to our customers, like from my direct email. So sometimes I get feedback back. We developed something that works pretty well, where we're getting, we have sort of like an automated system to get feedback on each individual product. So it like basically, the way it works is someone gets a box from us, say on Friday. 2 days later, it'll pick one of the products in that box, send them an email, and ask for specific feedback on that specific product. And I found that has worked really well. Instead of the question being like, how do you like Harvey, being like, how do you like the New York strip steak or something like that. People feel like they can give a better response to that and give really good feedback. And so we have those things that are constantly going into like a Slack channel, so we can follow those in our internal chat. But I think you can always be talking to customers more. I feel like one of the things that I always say to my team is like, when we're not sure what to do next, we should probably go talk to customers. So always spend more time with customers and find those repeatable things that you can do, whether it's like calling people or, if you're working in a retail establishment, you have a lot more time, like face-to-face time with them too. All right. How does a local Pittsburgh business get involved with Harvey to be included in one of your boxes? You would talk to our sourcing team. So there is a link on our website to become a producer with Harvey. Okay. And so a form you can fill out, and that'll be passed on to our sourcing team. Feel free to reach out to me, maybe on LinkedIn or something like that, and we can talk as well. Great. You mentioned taking a year to conduct customer research. How did you overcome any paralysis by analysis when launching your business for those of us just starting out? Well, at some point you just have to take a leap, right? Starting a business and entrepreneurship is a risk, right? And you're putting yourself out there. And so, I always think find the smallest thing you can do. Don't worry too much about we say do things that don't scale, right? Don't worry about we're going to be delivering 500 boxes a day. The first week that we delivered boxes with Harvey was actually, we announced it right before the pandemic happened, and then we delivered the first Saturday that everything shut down. Interestingly, the way the time worked. But that week we delivered 30 boxes. The delivery drivers that we had hired didn't show up because obviously, you know, it was a sort of a crazy time. And so we split the route up into like 7 employees, and we all went out and we did those first deliveries ourselves, right? Like we couldn't do that today. Boxes are being packed and delivered like as we speak, right? But so like just finding like, how do I test this? How do I get to the next, what's the next bottleneck? Like, how do I get to the next level? And so don't feel like what the idea that you have now has to be the final idea. You can keep just iterating and moving. Just keep moving, you know?
Just keep doing, right? All right, I think this may be our final question. How should a small business owner manage digital marketing, including post, newsletter, ads, surveys, and promotions? What budget needs to be allocated?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've spent a lot of time. We really spent about 2 years building out our marketing funnel, right? Especially using Facebook. And so being really cognizant of, well, at least what we've done is we've been really cognizant about how much are we willing to spend to acquire a customer by looking at like how much does that customer spend with us over a given period. We just look at the first 60 days, for example. So we know exactly how much we're willing to spend to acquire that customer to make sure that money comes back into the business within 60 days. So I think like if I were looking at that long list of things, that feels like too much of a list. I feel like find one channel that works and be really good at that one channel, because otherwise it's just too much and you don't know what's working and what's not working. So I think like try to keep it simple. Be my first thought. Find one that works.
Find one that works.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was wrong. We have a couple more things to talk about.
Sure.
And everyone out there, continue to ask these wonderful questions. If you have just any thoughts that come to mind, things you want to ask Simon, now is the time to ask it because he is sitting here with me and we are really trying to pick his brain. So Simon, this is a question from me.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. How did you come up with the name Harvey?
Well, Harvey is short for harvest, so Harvey Harvest. Interestingly, the way we came up with that is, and I had some other like code names that wouldn't work. I mean, I wanted to find, it was important to me to be able to trademark the name, so I had to find something that was like trademarkable that no one else had used. At that time, I think things would be different now, but we used there was like an online contest where basically you could like outline what the service is and people would submit like potential names back to you. And so I got like this list of 500 possible names and just went through, and then I saw that Harvey. I'm like, that's interesting. So that's really where it came from, and just kept building it from there. And that was something that was trademarkable as well. And so I think like maybe it's funny, like in business, you end up naming things a lot. Like there's those big names, like what is the business? But I feel like there's all these other like naming. You're always like naming things, like Small Business Success Summit, right?
Yeah.
So I've really found AI is like ChatGPT is like really great for naming things.
Yes. So tell me a little bit. Sorry, everyone. Now I'm asking a couple of my own questions. Tell me about how you utilize ChatGPT in your business, because I think AI is such a hot topic for entrepreneurs right now.
Yeah, how am I using it in my business? I mean, I'm not sure I have anything that's like the killer use case yet, and maybe that's where everyone else is too. Like it's just especially as a technology person, just the technology is just absolutely mind-blowing. I can't believe it's possible what is being done. But I use it for a lot of like simple things where maybe I would have to create a spreadsheet before to figure out a question. I'd be like, okay, if I sell this thing at this margin and I pay this much for, I don't know, like something I had in my head of like, is this like possible or not? I just can talk that into ChatGPT and it'll just give me the answer. So something that would take me like 15 or 20 minutes in a spreadsheet and like all this time, I can get an answer in like 15 seconds, you know what I mean? Or 10 seconds.
So it's like helping you with efficiency.
Yeah. So yeah, it helps me with efficiency. Yes, like naming is like a great little recent to use it. But I think so much is possible. I just think we haven't, like, as a society, we're a business culture. We haven't figured out what is that exactly. How does it fit? But there's something there.
No, for sure. I love using it for Facebook posts
Okay.
or like social media, like so
That's a great
easy.
idea. Yeah. Or like you can just like, like maybe if you had a letter you had written, you could be like, here's the letter, turn it into a Facebook post and a LinkedIn post and a Twitter.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So like that kind of thing. Like so efficiency.
So it's almost like when one of our audience members asks about, how do you do all of this? That's an easy way to
Right.
break it down and be able to like take the same content and put it over multiple channels.
Yes, I've experimented with like giving it like things I'm thinking about and like asking for like, how would you like organize my week or something like that, but it hasn't really worked. But I think there's something, there's something there.
But you have to keep feeding it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
All right, back to the questions. Were there any crisis moments or do or die when it could have all ended?
So many. Oh my, yeah, so many. Even right around when the pandemic happened, like that was a time where it was like, is this what is going to happen to and I was like right between the old business and the new business, and the old business was sort of like, not doing that great. And so, and I can think of just so many nights, and like, as everyone does here, like, sleepless nights, or, now it's like, we're worried about like, keep our coolers running, making sure all the deliveries happen. So, I think it's just about finding that support system and just trusting that if you keep doing the work that, it'll turn out well at the end of the day.
All right. In your opinion, how important would a support system with peers have been when you first started out?
I think it'd be really important. I mean, I've always looked to other like people who've been before me and try to figure out like what could I learn from them. I've done it through books, or like I think podcasts are like an amazing resource. I can't believe the kind of conversations that you can hear on podcasts these days. I didn't really have that peer group at the beginning. I imagine it could really like put you ahead 1 or 2 or 5 years. But at the end of the day, there's certain lessons you have to learn yourself. So, and you have to do it your own way sometimes too.
Yeah. What is the benefit? I mean, a lot of times at Entrepreneurs Forever, we say the benefit of being a small peer group or taking that 2 hours out of the month to be in one of our peer groups is it gives you the opportunity to work on your business and not in your business. Do you have any thoughts on that? How important it is just to take that time to, whether it's personal development, reading the book, joining Entrepreneurs Forever, listening to that podcast, but actually doing something that helps, enhance your business mind versus just being in the work.
Yeah. I mean, you have to make time for it, or else the business is just going to like gradually subsume you as the I don't know, we're saying founder or entrepreneur or business owner. And so like we talked about earlier, if like building the things that you're really comfortable with, you need to find a way to build the system so that someone else can do that, assuming you can afford to do that. And so I don't know, it's absolutely essential. And if you want to like scale the business up or get it to the point where, you don't have to be there every minute of every day.
Yeah.
But I know it's really hard when you're like in the middle of that to be like, take away that couple hours, but you just have to. And if you feel like you can't, that may be a sign that you need to change something about how you're running this business if you can't get away for 2 hours.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the first time you hired your first employee?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, my first employee was a customer support person. So I guess that would be like the thing that I knew, I knew enough how to do and could hand it off to someone else. And that was just a part-time employee. And she actually stayed with me for a long time.
Nice.
I can't remember any really specific stories, but that worked out pretty well that was a good thing, just to have a part-time person who's not completely reliant on it to start. So.
Good. Do you work with suppliers on packaging your products?
Do I work with suppliers on packaging? I think I know what that question is saying. Like how to get the packaging right so they can sell to us, I think is what the question is asking.
It could be that,
Yeah.
or if whoever asked that question, if you would like to clarify, let us know. Or I'm guessing maybe, do you look for are there suppliers out there that package, and would they be able to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, when we're looking at suppliers, we're looking at things like we're looking at packaging is certainly one thing. Do they does the product come in a package where we can receive it, we can get it out safely to our customers? Obviously, food safety is a big piece of what we do. So we're looking at packaging. We're looking at pricing. Like, is the pricing right in a way that, like, obviously we have a certain margin we need to take for our business, and so is the supplier used to working with wholesale relationships, right? Can they produce at that volume and still make the business work for themselves? It's like a really big question. Is the quality right? Is the product delicious? Can we get it like every week? You know, because we don't always have to get it every week. It can be something we can bring in for a short period, but can we get it here easily? So those are things we're looking at.
How much of your budget is delegated to advertising?
So that's a really good question. We basically, at this point, having spent a lot of time on, like we were talking about, like the marketing funnel, like how much are we willing to spend to acquire a customer? We basically know how much we need to spend on marketing each month to sort of keep our customer numbers even, right? Let's see, it would probably be like 2 to 3% of total volume needs to be spent to just sort of like keep the customers even. So it depends if we're like at a point where are we trying to scale our customer base in a certain area or not. But that's basically what it takes to keep us, you know, to keep us running.
Okay. And then we have a lot of people in the chat that are looking for business-to-business professionals. How do you find the right ones?
Business-to-business professionals, or we're talking about like insurance agents, or we're talking about consultants?
All the above. So they said lawyers, accountants, etc.
Yeah. I've done almost all that through referral.
Oh,
like
okay.
finding someone, you know, okay, I have an accountant, so who's the lawyer? Like, who's the lawyer I should talk to? You just ask the accountant who the lawyer is I should talk to. I know, like one time I was trying to find a PR person, and maybe you go to someone who go to a journalist and ask who's the PR person I should be talking to. So, you know, I think you need to find your networks, and this is where like the peer support can really help the people that you trust, because yeah, those professional, like that's such an important piece of it, of finding good partners there.
Oh, nice. Okay, let's see. As an online service, any advice for getting users to introduce/use new technology, especially for customers that may not be super tech savvy or eager to learn?
Interesting. I think it really depends on what the service is, I guess. But I think we need to, like any business you're in, thinking about the onboarding process, right? So how does someone go from being a prospect to like a really great customer? There's always work to be done at that period, you know, and that is there training you can provide? I know back in the day when I was doing more technology, like we built software for farms, as we talked about earlier, and so we would do like webinars, and we would like teach them about different pieces of the service, or we in fact did sort of like you're doing, we did like summits for like these small farms across the country. And so like knowing that your job is education, of getting them from that point of maybe they're interested in your service all the way through to being a really great customer. And so there's always work to be done there.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Oh, clarification on the question, packaging standards, environmental standards. So I'm going to read it again. Do you work with suppliers on packaging products? So, or do you work with them when it comes to like the standards of packaging and even environmental standards?
When folks are asking us, we have worked with them. It's not something we really have the resources to spend a ton of time with people, but I know there's a fair amount of organizations in Western PA that they could help with this. If this is specifically food, we might be able to make a connection for that person.
Okay. Last question. What is your big picture vision for Harvey? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think Harvey is almost like an impossibly big vision, is that I believe that we can build an independent local food economy, that we can buy food from local farms and producers, and we can make this work at a large scale. And so we've expanded into the Philadelphia region this year, and so we're looking at like how do we reach the rest of the East Coast? How do we reach, how do we get out to Boston or Chicago or so I'm thinking about that, and I believe it's possible, and so I'm going to keep solving the problems, and I'm so excited about it. I've been working on this for 20 years, and I figure I got at least 20 years left in me.
Oh, you have longer.
So I'm really excited about the work, and just keep following where it leads.
Yeah, awesome. Well, everyone, wasn't that amazing? Thank you, Simon, for joining us for an inspiring conversation. I think it truly illustrates what it means to be stronger together. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming. And as a thank you for attending today's summit, we have prizes. A huge thank you to Harvey for donating a mystery prize box for our audience. So let's spin the wheel.
Whoa. Here we go. It's spinning. Oh, there it goes.
There it is.
Oh, look at that.
We're very fancy.
Amazing. Yeah, talk about technology. The price is
Look
right.
at all those names. All right. And the winner is it Rebecca? Congratulations. We will reach out to you to arrange the details, and everyone stay tuned because we have more prizes coming up. In the spirit of Stronger Together, we want to share this member video.
Hi, I'm Amy Garbark. My business is Garbella, and I make screen printed apparel, accessories, and gifts, botanically dyed art and accessories.
Hello, I'm Kirsten Lowe Rebel, and I'm the artist and owner behind Kalo Rebel Art Co. I'm a pen and ink artist, and I have a brand of home goods that I sell out of Pittsburgh.
I'm Lindsay Schmidl of Gingerly Press. I am a letterpress artist, and I make my own line of stationery products and art prints with handset letterpress printing.
I was looking for community and a sounding board and peers who have experienced or were experiencing some of the same things that my small business was experiencing.
Yeah, shared information, just like experience. Shared experience goes a long way.
I'd say community and accountability. Sounding board definitely relates to me. I feel like just a way to kind of be like, hey, I had this customer, there's this issue, whatever. Has anybody else had this problem? Like, what have you done in the past? And also shared resources. That was a huge thing for me.
I mean, our group is amazing for that, to be able to share vulnerable things, joyous things, really difficult things.
Funny to think about, it's all the not fun stuff that like maybe we've made fun because we're doing it together. It's like packaging and like resources, like, yeah, where you're buying like shipping. It's not as far as like we go, it's the not fun part that we can like kind of do together.
Sometimes it's when somebody's doing their monthly check-in, really they just need a pep talk, and then we're all here to support them. Other times people just need to share a win or share a loss, and we're all here to cheer them on no matter the good or the bad.
I'd say the once a month check-in is frequent enough, but not too frequent, that it's keeping you accountable without a whole lot of pressure. It's just a really great resource. I would say definitely give it a shot.
I think like that is a huge reason. Like it is therapy adjacent, but just that like now I get to have a place to, you know, talk about the intricacies of my work, and now like, you know, I can like maybe live a better life with my family, like that outside space.
It's so helpful to get that feedback, just to know that you're not alone in some of the trials that you go through as a small business owner.
I love hearing success stories of our members. We have over 400 members in over 40 different groups, and there are slots available right now in Western PA. The QR code on your screen lets you easily apply. Okay, so how about an interactive workshop? To kick it off, here's our Vice President of Programming, Katie Uten-McMahon.
Thanks, Tamara. I'm going to get us set up for the next activity where we're actually going to give you time to work on your business. Just as Tamara was saying, you know, there's always a challenge of getting out of your day-to-day and working on your business. And we really wanted to give you a peek of the peer group experience. Oops, I think the studio is still live on audio. So let me just set this up a little bit. We've got a squad of our wonderful peer group facilitators here to lead some small breakout rooms. So these will be interactive. Ideally, if you're able to turn your camera on and talk to the people in your room and get to know some of these other business owners, you'll have the best experience. We're going to take about 30 minutes to do these facilitated breakout room sessions, and you'll be focusing on some of our favorite topics from our small business owner competency model. Over the years that we've been doing these peer groups, these curriculum tools have been kind of organically developed in response to what members asked for and what our facilitators knew that they needed. And so over time, we've developed some tools to really help you think a little bit differently about your business. And I'm thrilled to have everybody here. Love to get you into a room. However, if you're not here to work on your own business, or if you're just not in a place today to participate in discussion, I'm also going to stay here in the main room and talk a little bit about, we're calling it a report from the field, talk a little bit about what we hear from our members and what we know about national business statistics versus what we're seeing in our groups, and just kind of share a little bit about our perspective on how things are going in the business community of Western Pennsylvania. So feel free to stay in the main room. What should happen here is that you'll see an invitation pop up shortly to join a breakout room. You can click join now or not now to go into the breakout room. If you get into the room and you didn't mean to and you want to come back to the main room, the leave button is in the bottom right corner of the Zoom screen. You can always come back to this main room. And at the end of the 30 minutes, we'll bring everybody back in for some more prizes, some more content. We've got a lot more to cover this morning. So I think, Deborah, I think we're ready to open those rooms. And for anyone staying here in the room with me, give us just a minute. We're going to let everybody kind of get settled, and then we'll come back with a report from the field.
Okay, I did it. We'll wait and see if they all go.
All right. And if someone can just let me know, I'll get started as soon as it's time. Greg, I see you in the chat. Thanks for saying goodbye. We'll hope to see you again soon. All right, so it seems to me that we've got people settling into their breakout rooms. And so for those of you who are still with me in the main room, I encourage you to feel free to use the chat or in these smaller sessions, if you want to raise your hand, which you can do with the react buttons, I'll try to call on you as well. But what I wanted to do was just spend a little bit of time talking about what we've learned from our members recently and give you a sense for kind of who it is that we serve. Let me get started with some slides here. Just one moment. Apologize, I think we're having a little technical challenge here. Just one second. I'm going to go ahead and do my own screen share just to get this up on the screen. And let me adjust the view for you. All right, I hope that is now displaying. There we go.
Yep.
So this is a myth busting session. And what I mean by that is that I want to take this opportunity to kind of get a sense for what it is that you, oh, it says that my screen sharing is paused. One second. Okay. Let's see if I can resume. I appreciate everybody's patience. I think I'm back. All right. Myth busting. So what I want to talk a little bit about is what we know from our members about small business versus what is kind of, common misconceptions or the way that maybe the media treats small business. And from our perspective, we have this really unique opportunity to talk about what small business owners are facing because we've been doing the work in small groups, these peer group support groups for 10 years. We've had over 1,000 businesses participate over the time. And our program is generally a 3-year program. So we also have long-term engagement with these businesses that come into our program. And we really, we've got 40, actually, I think about 45 peer groups now today, growing every day with over 400 members. We serve different industries, whether that's product-based businesses, service businesses, business to business or business to consumer. We really have a unique opportunity to kind of access lots of different types of business owners and hear what it is that they're dealing with. All right, so there is there's a lot of common misconceptions out there, and I'm going to present a few of them. First of all, if you want to put some comments in the chat, I'd be curious to know, when you hear small business, about what percentage of business do you think small businesses have more than 20 employees? The SBA obviously says that a small business has 500 or fewer employees and less than $1 million in revenue. Less than 100 million in revenue. And as I think I may have failed to mention on the previous slide, we serve businesses that they have to be in existence for more than a year, but they could have anywhere from 30,000 a year in revenue all the way up to $1 million in revenue. So while that's a pretty big chunk, when you think about, small businesses, including businesses that could be up to 500 or fewer employees and 100 million in revenue, that's obviously not the full breadth of what the media and the Small Business Administration considers a small business. So one interesting little fact is that 98% of businesses have fewer than 20 employees. So non-employer firms are the absolute most common type. And the median take-home pay for small business owners in the states overall is about $26,000. Median revenue nationwide is about $51,000 for small businesses. So, when you're talking about the bulk of small businesses, they are, made up of one owner. I think it's 82% 82% nationally are non-employer firms. So only 18% of registered small businesses even have employees. And those that do have employees are still way under what you might sort of think of as a small business employer in terms of both revenue and size of business. All right. And I apologize, I'm having some trouble seeing the chat. So please feel free to raise your hand or unmute if you have a question. I'm happy to address any questions that may come up. And while I can't see the chat, I'll stop sharing a little bit to check the chat. All right. So when you think about the biggest hurdles to small businesses in terms of especially growing from a new business or an early stage from the startup phase, obviously the conception out there is that lack of access to capital is the biggest hurdle or a big hurdle for new or early stage businesses. And I certainly don't disagree. In fact, when we did some polling on our application, one of the questions that we ask is, what's a current challenge that you're facing in your business? And when we analyzed several hundred of those responses, one of the top 3 answers was lack of funding or lack of access to capital. So there's definitely an issue there. But as I said, it became top 3, number 3, whereas the other 2 had to do with hiring and with growing their market or with sales. So related to capital in terms of bringing in cash, but most small businesses are self-funded. Honestly, from start to finish, most small business owners don't access capital markets. So what we're seeing is, obviously there's a growth in non-traditional capital options. There's more crowdfunding. There are now, many different types of microloan programs that can be really valuable to small business owners. But even with these new options, we're seeing that many people don't actually access those capital markets, even if you want to call that a capital market, those alternative sources of capital, because they're self-funded from start to finish. They're entering their startup phase with whatever they're able to bootstrap, and then funding the business from sales from beginning to end. So accessing the capital markets is not necessarily even in the minds of a lot of our entrepreneurs. Whether or not it should be is a good question, but I think there's a perception that a lot of people write up their business plan and they go and start shopping around for funding. And of course, those of us that work in this space know that that almost never works for brand new businesses. And in fact, many businesses never find themselves in a place where it's either desirable or possible to access that kind of loan. So we're interested in, the ways that people do make this work. And we've had examples in our peer groups of people doing crowdfunding, doing, accessing grants from either local providers or kind of niche providers who are looking to support certain types of businesses. We've also seen people in our peer groups launch Kickstarter campaigns, which is a great way both for them to bring some attention to their business or maybe to a new product that they're launching, and also to raise some money. But there's a lot of different ways in which business owners, bootstrap their businesses that don't fit with that sort of mental model of going out and finding an investor or a loan. Okay, so this is one of the misconceptions that I think I hear most commonly, and that is that businesses that survive the first year are, kind of bulletproof. That if you make it past the first year, which is obviously a time that's particularly vulnerable in our minds to failure, then you're in it for the long haul. And of course, the reality is that business owners are constantly hustling. So when we look at our membership, a huge portion of our business owners at some point in the life of their business either open an additional business, whether that's, becomes an additional focus of theirs or it's sort of a side hustle, as we said here. They take full or part-time jobs to stay afloat. They work in the gig economy and do, delivery driving or Uber driving. There are a lot of ways that, particularly in the segment of businesses that represents the largest segment in the country, and those are those businesses that are under $1 million in revenue, there's a lot of ways that owners are making it work past that first year, all the way through the life of their business. So I think the idea that the business is no longer vulnerable after, proving success is clearly not true. I think almost anyone in this room probably knows that there is no point at which success is a given, right? We say that here, but it's true that, not only is success never a given, it requires that constant effort. It's also true that our business owners are really creative. They're pivoting, they're finding new ways to generate revenue, new revenue lines of business, or even new initiatives, totally new entities that they're building out to support whatever business it is that they sort of came into entrepreneurship with. So it's been really, interesting to see. In fact, I think post-COVID, we've seen an increase in people who are balancing entrepreneurship with, like I said, working in the gig economy or doing other things. We'll talk a little bit later in the summit today about who our program is ideally suited for. But one of the areas where we've had to have the most conversation around who our program is best for is this question of working in the business full time. Because for a long time, we have formulated our program to be best for people who work in the, we've said it's best for people who work in their business full time. And that's partly because we really want people who have full commitment to making it work, right? There's a difference between looking to your business to be a viable source of support for you and your family and community, or looking at it as a hobby. And so initially, I think we formulated this sort of achievement of getting to be in business full time as a way to test commitment. Over the years, it's also become important because we're looking at people who have sufficient control over their schedule to really make a commitment to coming to the meetings. But we've had to have a lot more conversation about what does it mean to be full-time, or should we be thinking about this a little bit differently? And that's something that I certainly am also open to some feedback on from people who either are business owners themselves or who work in this space. How do you sort of know when the business is sufficiently viable to be something that you're ultimately hoping will be a full-time concern, but you haven't gotten there yet? And how else would you sort of formulate that commitment question? Because it's been challenging for us. All right, this it's not exactly a myth. Certainly, a lot of people start their businesses to pursue a passion. But what we see quite frequently are the accidental entrepreneurs, right? And since 2020, the number of business starts has grown significantly. The pace at which people are registering new business entities and starting new businesses has quickened. A lot of those people may have been laid off, may have discovered, because of COVID, that they really wanted to be in a different environment than an office. We did some market research with our members a couple of years ago and had several people say in their interviews that they really started a business because they couldn't work for anybody else, right? They don't thrive in the structure of an organization, or they want to be an employer who's better than anything they've experienced out in the market. So there are a lot of people who are coming into business not just because they have a great idea for a market or product, a service or product that they want to market, and not just because they have a passion to solve a problem, but they're coming into business because they have a personal need to support themselves, their families, their communities, and they have a desire to be good business owners. So, I think one of the things that's been most interesting to me over the years is that once people really, even if they start with a passion for what they're doing, once they're in business and discover how much it takes to run a business, for a lot of people, that desire to just get good at being in business becomes really, front burner. And those accidental entrepreneurs, or the people who got into it because they just knew that they needed to do this and, pursue that passion, have really, a different journey than those who come into this with some sort of business education. The great majority of our members, and in fact, the great majority of business owners, do not have formal business education. So, don't be concerned about whether or not that education is required, but it's part of the reason that all of these entrepreneurial support organizations are so important. And I know we have several partners with us on the call today, which I'm really grateful to see. And part of the other reason that that's really important is, the type of the support that we provide is that learning continues forever, right? It goes on and on. So I'm going to take just a quick break from the screen share. And I've got a couple more slides, but I want to be able to look at the chat. And I also just want to be able to ask quickly, are there any questions about the entrepreneurs that we serve or about the research that we've been doing on entrepreneurs in the community? It may come up in my later slides, but I thought I would give people an opportunity to just raise their hands if there's anything they want to know now.
I have been watching the chat. I haven't seen too much there, Katie.
Okay. Thank you for keeping an eye on it for me, Deborah. I can't seem to figure out how to make it work when I'm on screen share. So I'll go back to my slides, but
and just so you know, we're gonna close this at 10:30. So you have about 15 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see here. All right, so now we're getting into some stereotypes about business owners that I think people are pretty aware may not apply in the way that they did once upon a time, but there is still a stereotype of a startup business owner, right? The stereotype is a young, rich man, works in tech, and there's certainly plenty of examples of people who fit that profile, who are, starting businesses, who are successful in business, not to say that they're not. And so I don't want to in any way act like that's not, still operating in the sphere. But where we see the biggest growth in entrepreneurship are from women, from first generation immigrants, people of color, and retirees. There is faster growth in each of those four segments than there is overall in terms of new business starts. And not only is there faster growth in terms of new business starts, but we're seeing that some of those categories of business are starting to catch up with the rate of growth and the size that sort of investor funded, angel funded startups have been able to achieve in the past. So there's definitely a lot of reason to be excited about the increasing diversity in the small business community. But I think there's also some really interesting challenges that we need to start thinking about. One of the conversations that we've seen in a couple of our peer groups is about succession planning. And for a lot of people, particularly who start their businesses later in their careers or later in their lives, that succession planning question is on the table almost from the time they start the business, right? Because there's a question about, do I intend for this business to end with me, or do I intend for this business to be a legacy for my kids, or am I trying to grow a business to a saleable place on a faster timeline? So that's one of the kinds of things that we're hearing more questions about, not just from people who are retirees when they start their business, but it's certainly more pressing for people who come into their small business journey, with an intention to exit in, let's say, less than 10 years. The other conversations that we're seeing a lot in our peer groups are certainly coming from some of these other segments of business owners. The first generation immigrant business owners that we work with have told us that part of what they need more support on is just learning the business norms of the United States. And so we've really been trying to be mindful of the fact that, as our curriculum, as I was mentioning, we call it our competency model for small business owners, was developed, it didn't necessarily reflect the challenges that business owners face today, or that growing segments of business owners face today. And so we've been working to develop some sort of new tools around how to navigate succession planning, how to navigate the US business climate. Certainly for women and people of color, we're looking at, all of the ways that women and business owners of color can access contracts, what different certifications are valuable to them, and just having those conversations in our groups. One of the things I like to say about our groups is that they are complementary of everything else you can do to grow your business. There's nothing that's off the table in our groups. You can raise any subject, you can talk about anything. And most of our business owners are also accessing other types of support. So they're going to get their certifications for minority or women-owned businesses. They're going to, other resources where they can learn some of the basics of accounting, or finding, other support, and then coming back to their groups and sharing what they learned. So it's a really wonderful sort of synergy between all of the different support that's out there and what you can do with a peer group. All right, so speaking of business owners and all the things that they have to do, I would say there is a common sort of conception of business owners that they're superheroes and that they're managing it all on their own. And I am not here to say that business owners are not superheroes, because sometimes I think they genuinely are. But of course, I am here to say that the most successful small business owners are lifelong learners, they are connectors, they thrive in community, and they look for support, right? So I think Simon gave us some really good examples of how he figured out when he needed support or where he needed support, or in the case of hiring, where he was, willing and ready to let go of some control. But what we see with the business owners who enter our peer groups is that it's kind of a self-selecting process, right? You don't join a peer group if you're not interested in sharing your challenges and your successes with other people. And you don't join a peer group if you're not willing to listen to advice from other people. But those people seem to grow faster and stronger than others. And I'm actually going to share some information about our groups, particularly drawn from the data collection that we did this past year. So first of all, in case I have any current members in the main room right now listening to me, I just want to say a huge thank you to our members who are willing to share information about their business performance year after year. We collect information about revenue, owner's compensation, and jobs in your businesses, both at application, and then once a year, we ask for an update. So we do that at tax time, and it takes quite a while for us to get all the data in and to do some analysis. But we're really just starting to roll out what we learned about the 2023 results for members of our program. And as I mentioned, it's sort of, we batch our program in 3-year chunks. We have some members who've come back for more than one 3-year chunk, and we certainly have people who don't necessarily stay for the full 3 years. But what we see is that somewhere around 2 to 2.5 years of participation in the program, there's really notable results here. So this is the average amount of time that our respondents were in the program, 2 to 2.4 years, depending on which of these categories we're talking about, and the growth that they achieved. So our members overall, and like I said, we currently have about 400, overall starting revenue when they applied to the program was just over $104,600. And in the span of 2.1 years, let me make sure I have that right. Yes, 2.1 for this. And the time span is a little bit different just because of the different respondents in each category. But we saw growth of $48,000. Obviously, that's almost 50%. And we know that that is outpacing national growth significantly. So at a national level, depending on the surveys that you look at, only about 20 to 40% of small businesses reported growth in 2023, revenue growth in 2023. In our program, it was almost 60% of members who reported revenue growth in 2023. And on average, the growth was that, was almost 50% of their starting revenue. And you can see that the start point for women members, which for us is about 63% of our program, we happen to skew more female, but for women members, that starting revenue was lower than the average overall revenue in our program. And the same was true for minority members. But the amount of growth, the dollar amount, was almost the same, which I find really interesting. And it doesn't mean that those women and minority-owned businesses have quite caught up at the end of 2 to 2.4 years, but it is true that they are outpacing national numbers for both women and minority-owned businesses at a similar rate to the overall revenue growth of our members. So that's exciting for us to see. And of course, we want to continue to make change that will help to narrow that gap in the overall revenue as well. And we're really dedicated to being sure that everyone who's in our program gets the resources and support that they need to grow to whatever size they're trying to get to. And so, it's interesting to think about. The other thing that we see is that sometimes people's conception of where they want to go or what they're trying to get from their business obviously changes over time. And I think we've seen in our peer groups that some women and minority business owners come in with less, maybe a smaller growth intention that does grow over time as they access more success and more support. And so, I'm excited to see that we're starting to see a narrowing of that gap. In our peer groups, as it says here, those businesses that come in as non-employer businesses have a much lower starting revenue than businesses that come in with employees. And that may also just reflect coming in at an earlier point in their business, because while we require people to have been in business for at least a year, we have people enter the peer groups after decades of business. So the life cycle of your business, the phase of your business that you're in could be quite different at application. But those that are applying before they've ever hired an employee come in with an average revenue of almost $38,000 and grow to $71,000. So that's, almost double there. If they became employer businesses, so I know this graph is a little detailed, but if they entered our program as a non-employer and in these first 2.4 years became an employer, they did enter with a higher starting revenue. And they also achieved double the growth of those that did not become employer businesses. So we're kind of parsing this information. One of the things that seems to be true about the entrepreneurial support ecosystem overall is that there's a lot of interest in job growth. And of course, that's true. There's always been a lot of interest in the economic development space in job growth. But one of the things that I think is increasingly being recognized by communities, government, and other leaders in our communities is that most communities are not going to be saved by having a giant, corporate employer come and locate their headquarters there and employ many, many people. What instead seems to be the more accepted truth, the thing that people are acknowledging more and more, is that small businesses are the largest employer, the largest segment of employers in the nation, employing over half of people who have employment are small businesses. And some of those are very small businesses that employ only a few people. So it's exciting to me to see that we're starting to gain some traction with recognition of the fact that when non-employer businesses get adequate support, when they get connected to the resources they need, they can become employers and support not only their own families, but their community by creating good jobs. And so these numbers are reflective of the difference right now between those that become employers and those that don't. There was also some really interesting research that came out this year about the difference in satisfaction, prosperity, and overall sort of self-assessed happiness between non-employers and employer businesses. And it does look like the benefits of employing people are not only financial, but also psychological and emotional. There's a lot to show that being an employer increases your overall satisfaction. I know we're getting close to time, so I'm going to stop.
Katie, can you answer one question while the numbers are still up? How does this compare to previous years' impact data?
So thank you for the question. It honestly is validation of we've only been collecting data for 3 years at a scale that allows us to actually do this kind of analysis. So when we collect the data, we are making sure that we have enough participants, that we have enough members share their data to actually be representative of our entire membership and of each little sort of segment of the membership. So we will only report numbers that we feel are reflective of the overall membership. And we've done that kind of mass data collection for 3 years in a row. And we've seen really similar rates of growth for those 3 years. This year was slightly accelerated. We had a slightly larger revenue and job growth than we've had in the previous 2 years. Not hugely larger, but I think as our membership size grows and as we're recruiting throughout Western Pennsylvania, not just in the urban areas of Pennsylvania, we are seeing that we are getting both slightly higher starting revenue on average and slightly faster growth in revenue and jobs. Any other questions? Let me stop this share here. Any other questions or concerns? I see Chris noting that many people do not want their children to have to take on their businesses. Absolutely true. And we do have, in fact, if you go to our website, entrepreneursforever.org, there's some video resources available. And in those video resources, we actually have a recent seminar on retirement planning for small business owners. It's a challenge that a lot of people face because either their children don't want the business or they don't want to have that burden for their children. But they've built something over time that deserves, some concerted effort to get the value out of it, make sure that it is the legacy that they intended to leave. And so I think that retirement planning is, extremely important for business owners.
And our next deep dive is on exiting your business and what are some scenarios that you could look towards.
Nice. Yeah. So it's certainly not just retirement planning, but also thinking about how you get that equity out of your business. All right. I think I see people will be joining us back in the main room here shortly. I'm happy to answer any other questions or if anybody has anything they want to add. Oh, and I just wanted to share, in fact, I think as people come back in from the main room, I'll just quickly mention that for our Pennsylvania businesses, which we're in the western half of the state. So in Western Pennsylvania, our average owner compensation in 2023 went from a start point of $22,600 to $40,600 over the course of 2 years of participation. But that's a 79% growth. So if you're thinking about how to pay yourself more, one of the best things you can do is talk to other business owners about how they did it. And we seem to see really impressive results on the revenue growth for business owners that really outpace the national numbers. Thanks so much. I think as people are coming back in from the breakout rooms, we'll give everybody just a second to arrive here. All right, as people come back into the room here, I think we've got Tamara, I'm going to toss it back over to Tamara. We've got another prize to pull in just a moment here. And we will head back to the studio to find out who our next winner is very shortly. So I was saying in the main room, for those of you who are in breakout sessions, that we do annual data collection, and we just really have completed the analysis of the data that we collected from 2023. So every year at tax time, and for those of you who are members of our program, I just want to say thank you to those of you who have shared your data with us. We collect information both at application to the program, and then once a year, just after tax time, we come back around and ask for updates on business performance for our members. And we've been pulling together the 2023 numbers, and that's the third year that we've collected this type of data, at least collected a sufficient amount of it to really be representative of our overall membership. So we have about 400 businesses in the program right now. We always look to be sure that we've gotten about one third to one half of our members sharing updated performance data so that we can say with some confidence that it's representative of the whole program. And these are the results that we saw this year. I didn't mention in the main room that we also have some groups in Massachusetts that are specifically in what they call distressed communities. So that's that bottom number. But otherwise, these are nationwide numbers, and most of our membership is in Western Pennsylvania. This is where we were born and raised, and we've had some expansion to some other communities that we absolutely love, but the bulk of our membership is here. So overall, our members are coming in at application with about $105,000 in revenue and having almost 50% growth over their first 2.1 years. So the average amount of time that people participated in the program when they reported this growth was that 2.1 years. And you can see that the start point for women and minority members in terms of revenue is lower. The amount of growth, the dollar amount, is about the same. So a larger percentage of growth for those businesses. And we're starting to see this gap close just a little bit over the years. Faster growth in both women and minority members. So this is really exciting to us. I appreciate everybody's patience. I think they're ready in the studio. I'm going to stop my share and toss it back over to Tamara for another prize drawing. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that first breakout. And just a note, the handouts from all the workshops are available in the resource section of the Summit website, so you can access them all. Now we will draw our second prize. The winner will get to choose a $250 service, which is being offered by one of our small business members. So let's spin the wheel. And the winner is Roberta. Congratulations. You'll hear from our programming team to give you the chance to choose which prize you would like. So let's watch another member success video.
So my name is Cynthia Underwood, a retired special agent with the IRS criminal investigation. I like to say I shifted. I left that job and went out into the world of entrepreneurship, ended up forming a partnership called C&J Financial Foundations with James Carter, who you'll hear from.
Hello, my name is James Carter. My original company is Books and Balances. I am a 1995 graduate at Thiel College. My company, Books and Balances, performs small business accounting and bookkeeping services.
I like the fact that business owners could operate in a safe place and space, explore opportunities in what they may be seeking. And so it's nice to bounce things off like-minded people.
For me, I was actually looking to network to kind of get the word out about my business, and I had no inkling as to how to do that.
It was nice to see the inner workings of business owners, especially their mental capacity, the strength and the veracity that you have to have to own a small business.
Actually, it worked out for me better because I wasn't comfortable in a general networking space. But when you're in a space where people are comfortable enough to open up kind of the blinders into their business, that helped me be more comfortable into a networking space and be willing to open up myself for conversation.
I think it also gave us a chance to see us working with business owners and working on businesses for those owners, how to improve on our own business and what we needed to do to evolve.
The group dynamic allowed us to see what other business owners were needing outside of what we were supplying as a service. That did allow us to build on our partnership so that we can offer services to other business owners.
I enjoy showing up and participating, every meeting, and it's to see how each business is growing and to see how we can grow and stretch ourselves. I think it's just a fantastic concept and a good use of your time. I mean, it's not a lot of time out of your schedule, but the value that you get out of each meeting, you can't put a price on.
First thing is, as with most things, you get out of it what you put in that if you're willing to be open and honest with the group members and not only give feedback, but accept the feedback.
We are putting on this summit to give you a taste of what you can expect as a member of one of our Entrepreneurs Forever peer groups. Remember, you can sign up anytime using the QR code on the screen. Here's Katie to introduce our next breakout session.
Thanks, Tamara. We are going to do one more breakout session to work on your business, and this is going to be a different set of topics. You'll likely wind up with a different facilitator. We want to dig into one more really useful subject area for you so that you get some good aha moments today. And during this session, if you don't go into a breakout room, if you stay here in the main room, we have a really exciting panel discussion. So another kind of report from the field here, but this one will include two wonderful partners of ours. We've got Tamara leading a little panel discussion on the state of small business in Western Pennsylvania with two community partners who've been really important to us in the work that we've done over the last year. So we'll be opening the rooms here again. You can accept your invitation or stay in the main room. Either way, and after the breakout sessions are over, we're going to come back together for one more prize and really wrap things up. I hope you'll find that the next half hour is valuable for your business, or if you stay in the main room, valuable for you understanding the business community and the support that's available in Western PA a little more fully. And I think the breakout rooms are forming now.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tamara.
Good morning. And we're getting one more person. And hi, everyone, there we go. Okay. Now I feel like an official newscaster. Hi, everyone. I feel like now I'm in the mix versus being on the stage. So I'm excited to have this conversation with Brian and Barata. So we are getting him pinned and then we will get started. There he is. I think we're ready to get started. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Tamara. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. They have me working over here, guys. So now I'm going to let you guys do all the talking. Let's start off with some introductions. So first of all, thank you both for joining us for this panel discussion. As you know, Our theme is Stronger Together, which encapsulates, the power of collaboration and peer learning. So today we have two distinguished individuals and who are going to be bringing some valuable insights into the current landscape of businesses in Western Pennsylvania. So I'm thrilled to welcome two people I like to call friends, Brian Slawin, Director and Portfolio Manager of the Northwest PA at Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and Barata Bay, the President of the African American Chamber of Commerce of Western Pennsylvania. So gentlemen, if you could, before we dive in, maybe talk about your organization and talk about your very important roles within the organization. Brian, do you want to kick it off?
Happy to do so, everyone. Tamara and everyone at Entrepreneurs Forever, thanks so much for including the Ben Franklin Technology Partners in our important work supporting entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial businesses as they go from literally an idea on a napkin to a storefront or manufacturing facility or technology company. We're super excited for the companies in our portfolio to be part of your program and looking to scale that further. So the Ben Franklin Technology Partners was the nation's first and arguably most impactful venture development organization. And what that means is we find, mentor, support, and then ultimately invest and help grow various companies that are doing something in innovation, either an innovative business model or an innovative product or an innovative tool that helps them scale beyond the adding one employee, adding two employees, adding three employees. We really look at how does innovation help their business scale. And we do that in two vertical areas. One is technology, which we'll talk about what technology really is here in a little bit, as well as in small manufacturing. So we invest in emerging companies. We provide management support for those portfolio companies. We do a lot of entrepreneurial training, and in keeping with the theme of today, we help local organizations develop their local entrepreneurial ecosystem to support all of the companies that are growing. So that's the Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and super excited to look for today's discussion.
There we go. Thank you, Brian. Barata, tell us a little bit about the African American Chamber of Commerce of Western PA and your new role.
Yeah, thank you, Tamara. Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that I can share this information with Brian and all of the members of Entrepreneurs Forever. The African American Chamber of Commerce of Western Pennsylvania, we've been around for about 27 years. We are really just focused on those businesses that have started up, they're up and running, but they need holistic support. That's where we come in. We're the piece that provide advocacy, making sure that we hear the voices of our members and that we can be in the proper places to voice those concerns, to make sure that legislation makes sense for small businesses, both at the local, state, and federal levels. We're also here to provide technical support, that TA that's really required to help the businesses scale as they're moving forward to get to where they want to be. The other thing that we're providing as well is making sure that we're that conduit to get you connected to those mentors, right? Everybody needs a mentor to figure out those problems that you're going to face, right? They're there, they're waiting for you. But if you can have someone that's already been around that corner and can tell you what to expect and help to navigate through that, that's what we're here for, to make sure that we get you connected as well. The other thing that we really focus on is making sure that we're creating opportunities for all businesses. We're titled the African American Chamber of Commerce, but we're a very diverse chamber. We have Latin Americans, we have Asian, we have Caucasian, as well as African American and other minority groups. So we're really excited about that. But we're just here to make sure that we're taking this journey with you and that we can be that advocacy that you need.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen, for those explanations. So let's dive right in. I have my list of questions here. Brian, with your statewide perspective at Ben Franklin, what trends or patterns have you seen in new business startups in Western PA, especially considering the rise of applications that we saw during COVID? These would be business applications, and the still lower operational numbers compared to pre-COVID.
Yeah, super good question, and actually a super critical question for organizations like Barata's, ours, yours, at Entrepreneurs Forever, and so many others. Here's some numbers. For every 1% increase in entrepreneurial startups, and Barata's right, it can be from any company. There will be a $500 increase in household income per year for every 1% of increase in entrepreneurism. Why? Because of the ripple effect, right? So I'm a storefront person. I need to buy product. I need to hire people to serve customers. I need to do the things necessary, and that capital will ripple through the economy. Further, there is a 2% for every 1% increase in entrepreneurism, there's a 2% reduction in poverty. So some of our communities really need that, right? Some of our more rural, certainly underinvested in areas, really need an increase in entrepreneurism. So 99% of all new jobs are in entrepreneurial companies. So it has a massive impact, entrepreneurism does, a massive impact. And so at Ben Franklin and at the African American Chamber and Entrepreneurs Forever and so many others, the things I think we're seeing are there's a separation between talent and geography. Things like Zoom have made it easier to do business at a distance. So there's really been a shift to remote or hybrid work, although I think it was yesterday or maybe late last week, where Amazon said, yep, everyone's going back to the office. So that'll be interesting to see what happens to their workforce as that becomes a reality. We've also seen at Ben Franklin an increase in digital and e-commerce ventures. So it's pretty simple through things like Shopify and some of the other tools to stand up a branded swag company and source your stuff, the things you're selling, literally from all over the globe. Fulfilled by Amazon, a huge increase in fulfilled by Amazon business. We've seen, mostly because who we are and what we focus on, an increase in technology companies. So there are a lot of folks who were working inside of company X, that wasn't happening anymore, or now they're being forced back to the office. And so we're seeing them take their talents out into the market and do the things that need to be done. And I think this will be a surprise. We have seen an increase in support for startups. So Entrepreneurs Forever, great example. You all came onto my radar just a couple of years ago. That's well post-COVID, right? There's an organization called Right to Start by a gentleman named Victor Wong. He is going across the country talking about the kinds of support that entrepreneurial ventures need. So I think while the applications for startups, EINs and those sorts of things are on the rise, the actually starting the company is sort of flat, if not trending down. And I think these and probably several other reasons are why.
So following up on that, we talked about a lot of businesses emerging during that COVID period or tried to emerge. Do you have any sense of how they're actually doing now?
Well, I can only report what's going on in our portfolio, and we're seeing things go up and to the right. And I think that's because we focus on, most people look at the Ben Franklin Technology Partners as an investor and a mentor network that we can make introductions and provide support with our folks. What we really emphasize or really focus on is that the best investor is a paying customer. Everyone else's money is fine, I guess, for now, but it's not sustainable. So the best investor is a paying customer. And we laser focus our efforts in helping our companies grow.
Given our theme of Stronger Together, do you believe these young businesses have the support needed for long-term success? What do you think early stage entrepreneurs share about the types of assistance they require to thrive, and how can peer learning play a role in addressing these needs?
Yeah, really critically important conversation. So to directly answer your question, do I think they have the resources? Yes. But the critical last mile, if you will, is do they know how to get to them? Or do they know where those things are that they can get access to? If I'm an entrepreneur and I'm trying to start up a business, I'm focused on my business and doing all of those sorts of things. I don't have any expertise in how to navigate the entrepreneurial support environment. So in Ben Franklin, we operate under a mantra called no wrong door. What we emphasize to every entrepreneur is just knock on anyone's doors. Chamber, Entrepreneurs Forever, what Barata's organization, ours, on, let all the ripples, knock on anyone's door and say, I need help. It's my job, our collective job, to then make sure that that entrepreneur either advances in our organization, or if they're not a fit for us, to make sure we make the 2 or 3 exact right introductions so that they don't have to do the telephone game and drive all around the county trying to figure out who can help them. So no wrong door is the way that we operate. And while there are a lot of resources out there, we need to do a better job of getting entrepreneurs connected to them.
Thanks, Brian. So Barata, the African American Chamber covers all of Western PA. What patterns in business formation are you seeing amongst minority business owners? Are their support needs any different from what Brian has covered?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Brian did a really great job. He covered a lot of key information. What we're seeing from our perspective is that there is growth in the minority space in terms of startups. We're seeing that with, for example, for African American small businesses, we're seeing an uptick in service-based industries, right? Services that they're providing in through barbershops, salons, food services, clothing and beauty products. And then we see an uptick in consulting services such as accounting, health and wellness, mental health services, and legal services as well. We're also seeing an uptick in, even though the representation for minority operators being in the tech industry, we are seeing an uptick there. And so we're seeing that with the help of Kiva Pittsburgh, they're helping bring more minorities into that tech space. Tally Leadership Institute is also working with leaders of startup tech industries to make sure that they're getting well connected, having access to those funding sources so that they can play a bigger presence. In the Latino entrepreneurship, we're seeing an increase again in food trucks, specialty foods, grocery stores, things of that nature. We're also seeing a lot of foreign language services coming online to help with the immigration population to navigate through the cities that they're living in, the resources that they're coming connected to, because again, a lot of services that are provided to help them support them don't have the language speaking experts on staff. So we're seeing more of that. We're seeing an uptick in the immigration population. Again, what are they getting into? The import, export food specialties, personal service, cater, that's a niche provider to their particular groups and cultural groups. We're seeing uptick in women minority businesses getting into healthcare, other health and wellness services as well, spas, beauty products, candles. So the range is pretty wide and it's very diverse, but we're seeing that they are definitely moving into these areas. In terms of the supports that they need, we're going to get into this later on, but access to capital. A lot of them still express that they need that. We'll talk about that a little more. Additional supports, right? Getting into the proper networks. How do you navigate those networks? Then they're talking about, their additional needs are penetration into new markets. What does that look like for them? And then the logistics of their business, right? How do they navigate the inventory coming in and out? Like, what does that look like? Just-in-time inventory, things of that nature. Making sure that they don't have products sitting on the shelf that they can't move, because that's going to ultimately have a negative impact on them. So all those supports that Brian pretty much touched on, we're seeing that that's trickling down to the smaller minority businesses as well.
So I have a two-part question for you. With over 600 members in your directory, you're in touch with many long-standing businesses. From your perspective, what are the top 3 challenges these businesses are facing today? Are they like inflation? Is it hiring? And then the second part is, in the spirit of Stronger Together, what solutions have you observed effectively to help these established businesses navigate and overcome these challenges?
So yeah, that's a really great question. And I would say that there's many challenges that I'm hearing, but I would say rather than 3, there's 4. And I'll go through them quickly, right? Because when I'm talking to small businesses, the number one thing that always jumps out is access to capital. And so we hear that all the time. I guess that's across the country. But when you really dig down into that and you're wondering, like, what do you mean by access to capital? Well, several things come to mind. One is that they know that a lot of them feel they're not bankable. If they go to a bank, they're going to be denied, right? They talk to their peers, they hear this. So I think that has 2 effects on them. One is that those that may even be bankable, but they've heard all the horror stories, so that's not even an option for them in their own mind. So I think it was mentioned earlier, Katie talked about it, where we're seeing a lot of small businesses self-funding from start to finish, right? They're reaching out to their families for support. So access to capital is always one. Equity investment, which comes under that umbrella, is an additional one. The other area that's a big challenge is market access and networking. You know, penetrating newer, larger markets for a smaller business can be difficult, right? Because of the lack of the network and that connectivity to help get them into those markets. And then the networking piece, we're finding that a lot of small businesses, they understand the importance of networking, but when you dive a little deeper into that conversation, you start to understand that networking for some comes easy, for others, it's a mystery. And so helping them remove that fog and understanding how to get started with networking, but once you're in that room, how do you effectively network? And then the other is the ongoing systematic bias and discrimination. We're seeing it in banking systems when it comes to lending. 1, you're just being outright denied, or 2, there's some ridiculous criteria that they have to meet in order to qualify. And then 3, if they are approved, they're receiving lesser amounts than what they wanted. And then with those lesser amounts are attached higher interest rates, which again becomes a barrier. The other is customer perception. You know, we're finding that, and I thought this was interesting, a lot of the small businesses or minority small business owners, they said that when they go to try to, one, penetrate into new markets that are difficult, they're also finding that there's bias coming from the customers because they have misperceptions about what that business can do. Can they deliver a product in time? Are they going to be professional? And it just, the list goes on. And so we're finding that that's difficulty as well. And then the 4th category, it was mentioned by Simon, is retention of talent and finding new talent. That seems to be across the board, systematically impacting small businesses as well as large businesses. And then I think the second part of your question was like, what are some of the solutions? I think, you know, when you're looking at access to capital, it's one, getting them to think about capital a little differently, and that it is a tool and that there's other avenues of capital out there. And I think that if your local bank, one, is not working with you and you've been banking with them from the start, you need to reevaluate that relationship. 2, I think that there's community development financial institutions, CDFIs that they can tap into, community banks, credit unions. I think, you know, Pittsburgh, we lack Black-owned financial institutions, but that doesn't mean that the ones that are located in New York or Atlanta or North Carolina, they have abilities to lend across state lines. We need to be making sure as a chamber that we're introducing those resources to this market so that these minority business owners have access to them. And then I think also identifying some of the larger credit unions and community banks that are out there that are lending that we typically don't have in our backyard, making sure that we introduce them to the market as well. And then I would also say making sure that we're working with the community banks and financial institutions in this market to understand that they need to be rethinking their products and services, maybe creating something that's more portfolio related that gives them a little more flexibility that they can work with these smaller entrepreneurs. And then I think also what we do as a chamber in its vital work is making sure that we're helping create those networking opportunities, that we're filling the room with the decision makers for corporations, getting these companies to not only rethink their dollars that they're committing to their procurement processes, but then really taking a deep dive and understanding and identifying the biases that are in those systems and removing those. But then getting them into the room so that they can meet with these business owners and begin to have a dialogue and understanding the capabilities and learning that these individuals do have bandwidth and they can take on larger projects if they're given the opportunity. And then I think the final piece is, when you're talking about the retention of talent and finding new talent, I think there's some really great organizations out there. Like when I think of Partners for Works, Partner for Works can come in and help companies that have employees that need to be scaled and trained up, but they may not have the resources. Partner for Works has a really great program that a lot of small businesses don't know about. They'll come in and understand what your skill set is required by your staff, and they will develop training programs to help train your staff up. And while they're doing this, they will cover the salary for those employees. But once they complete that training, the agreement is that they either get elevated to another level, receive additional responsibilities, and get a pay increase, right? And the whole concept is that if Partners for Works is training your staff and they're compensating them, that's revenue that's not coming off your bottom line to go towards salaries. So you can then be investing in that so that when they're ready to come out of that training program, that there's resources there to give them a salary bump and give them additional responsibilities. So I think programs like that are wonderful. But again, I think that chambers and other organizations like Entrepreneurs Forever, it is definitely up to us to make sure that we're getting those resources aligned and connected to the entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen.
And
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Brian.
Barata has touched on a number of really important things that all sort of line up together. Pennsylvania is being out-invested by our peer states, pure and simple. And there are a lot of people working on that, but as we sit here today, Pennsylvania is being out-invested by our peer states. And what that means is, and Barata touched on all of these, programs to support the growth of talent are underutilized because there's not enough capital. That means we're not getting more experience into the ecosystem to help these young companies get, their feet underneath them and get moving. That also means there's less innovation business models, innovation technology, innovation everywhere. There's just less of it because Pennsylvania is being out-invested by our peer states. All of this leads to longer runways, the ability to do your business, crawl, walk, run, and have a runway that can hopefully extend out beyond your failure point. And then all of this can result in better results. And when I say better results, what I mean is more underrepresented people coming to market, taking the risk, knowing that the community and the capital and the support network will be there for them when they're most needed. So I think I've said it now 4 times. I'm going to say it one last time. Pennsylvania is being out-invested by our peer states. And so if you know a political person, if you know a representative, you need to make this clear that that one fact is harming the ability to grow entrepreneurial activity in the state, which, as I pointed to earlier, 99% of all jobs are in entrepreneurial activity or in entrepreneurial companies.
Well, gentlemen, I think that you and I and everyone on this call could probably talk about this forever, but I have been given the 3-minute warning. So before we close, I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy day to join us. And I know that Entrepreneurs Forever is working with each of your organizations to partner with you and your small businesses. If you could give one piece of advice to our entrepreneurs out there about the power of peer learning and why they should take advantage of this opportunity, what would you say?
I'll go. I would say that peer learning is imperative. If you're not connected to a peer learning group, you need to get there. Several things. One, it's always power in numbers, right? I think the more people around the table having a conversation about some of these difficult things that entrepreneurs face, it's greater think, get things from different perspectives. I think when you have diversity of industries around the table starting out, I think that there's some power to be spoken there as well about what you're seeing from different parts of the state that you're in, different markets that you may be experiencing or trying to infiltrate. There's some success stories to be learned, but there's also some challenges that everyone needs to hear to try to avoid those pitfalls and obstacles. I think too that, just to have the support in itself, right? Entrepreneurship is hard and it could be lonely. And it could be challenging, it could be depressing, but also on the flip side, it could be rewarding when it's done correctly. And I think when you have a village around you that's supporting you, and you know that you're not going to face difficult times by yourself, but you have a support group, you can take on any type of problem. And finally, I would also say that, we heard about a lot of great resources. Listening to Brian, I learned about some things that I wasn't even aware of. We all, we just got to be aware that there are some things that we just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so being around the table full of folks, a lot of times those blind spots and those gaps will be filled just by having conversations, speaking with other people, like-minded people that are moving in the same directions that you are.
Awesome. And Brian, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, 30 seconds. An idea well executed will always find the resources necessary. So let's go backwards. How do you get the resources necessary to execute your great idea? Reach out to Tamara, reach out to me, reach out to Barata, reach out to anybody and say, I need help. Our responsibility is to make sure we get you positioned for success. We're your unfair advantage. So leverage us. I've noticed a couple of comments in the chat. Where do I go? Start with the three of us and we'll get you connected and moving in the right direction. And good luck to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will drop both of their respective organization websites into the chat. So if you need to reach out to them and learn more information about them, the information will be there. And gentlemen, if you want to share even, your LinkedIn and your personal information, feel free to put that in the chat as well. I think I am now turning this back over to Katie.
Thanks, Tamara. And there again is the QR code to apply. We are almost done here, so we're going to have one more prize drawing, but I just really quickly want to be sure that everybody has the information that they may need, both to understand whether or not applying to our program was right for you at this time. If you're currently a member and you've ever thought about sending people to our program, I want to be sure you understand too what, who the right fit is. I've had several members say, I don't remember what I needed to do in order to get into the program. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. I think we're going to have a slideshow pop up here very shortly. And we've covered an awful lot. I also want to remind everyone that all of the handouts, all of the resources that we've mentioned today will be in that resources section of the Summit website. And you can access them. And then after today's event, we will also be posting recordings of the event there as well. So lots to reference in the future if you need to come back to it. So here we are. Our motto is basically alone is no way to run a business. So I want to share a little bit about the program. As you've heard us say, we're all about peer support. We are a nonprofit. We do this with community support in order to offer it free to business owners for monthly virtual peer groups. And our program is not about classroom learning. I hope you're able to see this on the screen. It's a monthly meeting. Our groups meet over Zoom. We have about 10 to 12 people assigned to each peer group. They are all business owners like yourself who meet certain qualifications. We'll talk about those in a moment. The facilitators are also business owners, either now or previously, people who have walked this journey, who know what it is that you're going through and have some expertise in that area. And they are also trained to give both structured and unstructured time to the meetings so that there's plenty of time for people to real-time problem solve. A lot of what we do in the groups is ask what's going on in your business today and what can the group do to help you overcome whatever hurdle you may be facing or celebrate whatever success you've just achieved. So we do all of that, also with a focus on accountability. A lot of our peer group members will, at the end of each meeting, make a commitment to what they're going to have completed before the next meeting. And so there's a lot of opportunity for people to be kindly held accountable by their peers and keep them moving forward. We are not a networking group per se or a leads program, and we're also not a casual drop-in program. It is important that people show up. You have to get to know each other and each other's businesses in order to give each other really high quality advice. And so we're looking for people to come monthly to their meetings, share openly about what's going on in their business, give their best thinking to their peers, and really support one another in growing all the businesses that participate in the group. All right, on the next slide, you'll see some accomplishments. So this is really what we're looking for in our membership. Our program works best for businesses that fit these accomplishments. People who have a business that's been in existence for at least 1 year, who are full-time in their business and who have achieved 30,000 in annual sales, but not more than $1 million. The great majority of our members are well under $1 million, although we love to see people grow to that point, and we have had those kinds of success stories in the groups as well. But I just wanted to share a little bit of information in case you weren't in the room before. Our average incoming revenue is just over $100,000, and it varies widely. But these basic requirements are what we think it takes for people to really get the most out of the program. I did mention in my section that the one where we have some of the most questions and also the most opportunity to understand you better is whether or not you're full-time in your business. So a lot of people come to us and say, I'm trying to be full-time in my business. I seek to be full-time in my business. And often the program's still a really good fit for them. So if you're ever concerned about meeting these qualifications, please just go ahead and apply. Even if you get an automated message that says that you don't yet meet the qualifications, we do review those applications as they come in, and we'll reach out and learn more about you and see if we can connect you to a group, or, as Brian mentioned, just to the right resource. A lot of times what we're doing is helping you identify what the best available resource is at this moment, even if you're not quite peer group ready. All right, on the next slide, we've got the QR code. Becoming a member is quite easy. You complete this online application. It will ask you to sign up for what we call a discovery session. That is an online session where you'll take a small business owner assessment, and that assessment is going to give you a score in 7 different areas of business ownership, and also allow you to learn kind of how you measure up to the several hundred other business owners who've taken that assessment over the last 2 years. So that's an assessment that we wrote for people as they come in, and it also gives us the opportunity to see your competency growth over time. So after you've been in the program for some time, you can retake the assessment and see where you're growing in those 7 areas of business ownership. But that all starts with the discovery session. And then the final step is to sign the member agreement and meet with our member experience manager very briefly to get oriented to the program and enter our portal. So we have a membership online portal that also includes a membership directory. That directory is growing all the time. You can opt in or opt out if for some reason you don't want to be in there, but you can post your business information, and it's a really great place for our members to go and find business-to-business providers. So that's another good resource available exclusively to members. And when you join, we encourage you to go ahead and develop a profile there so that people can find you. I think that's it on the membership. We've had an amazing time this morning. Here's the QR code again. And I just wanted to leave you with one little piece of information too. If you're wondering who joins our program, the thing that I want to share is that it's really for everyone who fits in this sort of slice of small business ownership, which is a huge slice, but everyone is welcome. And we do find that we have women and business owners of color are very well outrepresented in our program as opposed to the rest of the country in terms of business ownership. So we've got 38% of our members who identify as minorities, 67% identify as women. And as I mentioned in one of the reports from the field, those two categories are growing faster than our general membership and much, much faster than the national statistics for small business. So we've had 43.6 of our members who came in as non-employers become employers in the last 2 years. Whereas nationally, the statistics show that only about 2 to 5% of non-employer businesses ever become employers. So we're really excited about the growth that we're seeing, both in terms of sales, owners compensation, and job growth. And we just want to keep this momentum going. If you are interested in joining, or if someone that you know is interested in joining, please send them our way. And if we don't have a seat for them at this moment, we can connect them with a better resource. All right, I think I'm throwing it back to Tamara for one last prize drawing.
We really hope this morning's time together has been insightful for you. Thank you to Simon Huntley, our crew here at Community Forge, our facilitators, our panelists, and the whole team at Entrepreneurs Forever who put countless hours into planning and executing this terrific event. We look forward to you joining our peer groups for small businesses, and it really just starts by clicking that QR code to apply. Now we will have the drawing for our final prize. The winner will get to choose a $250 service being offered by one of our small business members. Let's spin the wheel one last time. Let's see. And the winner is Cindy B. Congratulations. You'll be hearing from our programming team to give you a chance to choose which prize you would like. But before we close out the morning, I would like to personally invite those in Allegheny County to join us at an in-person event on October 17th. Check out the link in the chat for more information and to register. Thank you again for being a part of this amazing morning. Have a great day.